Hey, before we start this episode, I want to let you know that I've just launched a crowdfunding campaign for us to taste one of the coffees mentioned in this story. I'll explain more in the credits. I'm sat in a hotel conference room surrounded by coffee farmers in cowboy hats and government officials in white shirts. Now, let's play a little game. What national anthem is this? Up on stage, they're about to announce the winners of El Salvador's 2019 Cup of Excellence. This competition decides which coffee farmer grew the tastiest coffee in El Salvador this year. After some boring speeches, we get into the awards. Different coffee producers walk up to collect their awards. What strikes me is how different they look. For example, right now, a woman in her 60s is walking by a row of chairs. She's not wearing any jewelry nor makeup. And then, by the time we get to the top 10, the coffee producers look more and more like this man in his 50s.
This guy's got he's got my Apple Watch, the whole caboodle. Yeah, but he's really famous here.
And as it turns out, this same man gets up twice to collect 2 awards. The ceremony is over, the marimba band starts up, and the room swirls with coffee producers and coffee buyers shaking hands. This competition is symbolic of specialty coffee. It's this idea that if a coffee producer makes great tasting coffee, we'll reward that by paying higher prices. Placing in this competition opens the doors for unknown coffee producers to meet buyers, the people who can pay them badly needed, financially sustainable prices for their higher quality coffees. But I can't shake the suspicion that there's a deeper story at play. 20 years ago, specialty coffee patted itself on the back for having this humanitarian focus. The fact that this rising tide of higher prices were lifting all boats, all coffee producers of all sizes. But how does that square with what we just saw? The man in his 50s got up to collect 2 awards, both in the top 10, while the older woman's coffee was only the 28th best on the table. I introduced myself to the man. Let's nickname him Armando.
Is English better? Yeah, much better.
He hands me his business card.
I gotta go. Pleasure. You have my card. Be in touch.
I then introduced myself to the older woman.
Zoila Pineda.
Her name is Maria, her actual name.
Yo vivo en La Palma. Me imagino que por ahí llega también.
She gives me her phone number. In this and the next episode, we're diving deeper into Armando and Maria's lives and farms. The fact they're here in this hotel conference room means your fancy coffee tomorrow morning is more likely going to be one of theirs. But what did it actually take for them to get here in the first place? I'm James Harper, and this is Filter Stories, the untold stories hidden in your cup of coffee. I'm on an American-style school bus. It's hot. I feel sweat trickling down my back. The bus is taking me 2 hours north, up into the mountains near the border with Honduras. I hop off at a little town called La Palma. The air is cool and I feel like I'm walking into a rainbow. The town's walls pop with multicolored paintings of birds and armadillos. Trucks with Honduran license plates lug shipping containers. Their black diesel fumes tickle the painted butterflies. I find a place to stay, and then as the sun sets, I stroll through town and meet Maria.
That's right. Bang on time. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Sí?
We wander into a local restaurant.
Yo le traje bananas.
Maria hands me a gift, a bunch of tree-ripened bananas. They're syrupy sweet.
Gracias.
The microphone's rolling, and we're about to dive into Maria's world and explore what kind of life she's lived. And because Maria only speaks Spanish, you're going to hear an actor and a lot of really, really terrible Spanish from me. I ask Maria, where were you born?
Here in La Palma. But then after, I went to live close by, like 12 kilometers. And then when I was 14, my father died.
Mi papá murió. Cuando murió mi papá,
When my father died, I had to go to San Salvador. I worked during the day and studied at night.
y estudiaba por la noche. Entonces así fui.
And then, like that, I kept going, till suddenly I found a way to study in a normal school. I got a loan so I could stop working. They give me the money, and I went to study at a normal school, and then I graduated.
Normal y salí. Después de salir,
After I graduated, I worked in a local school as a teacher. I paid the loan back. I worked 34 years.
trabajé 34 años.
While training to be a teacher, Maria met her husband, Oscar. They taught side by side in the same school. They had a couple of kids too. And by the time the kids got to university, Maria and Oscar were living together, working together, and hoping to retire together. They also had a small 2.5 hectare coffee farm. Maria inherited it from her father, and Oscar looked after it.
Él lo que hacía es estar pendiente.
He brought the fertilizer, doing what needed to be done.
But 6 years ago, Maria's life was turned upside down.
No sé, amanecimos bien en la casa.
I don't know, it was a normal morning. He woke up, went to school before me. At 9 a.m., he came back home. At recess, I came back too. When I found him, he'd had a stroke. He had collapsed,
En la casa,
dying. We called the ambulance, the doctors, but no, he died.
doctores, pero no, se murió.
¿Cómo te sientes sobre eso en el momento?
Ay, terrible. Es un
Oh,
momento bien difícil.
terrible.
No sabía qué
It was a
hacer,
difficult moment.
y el primer año fue horrible para mí porque
The first year was horrible for me. At home we lived together, only me and him. And now I am alone.
Dios conmigo.
Maria took early retirement and began living on her $15 a day pension. She was now well into her 50s and then decided to devote most of her time to the coffee farm. I asked why.
Hay varias cosas que
There are many reasons. First, if you don't work the coffee farm, you can't give work to the people.
no se le da trabajo a la gente. No es mucho lo que me dan como pensión.
I don't get much of a pension,
Para comer yo tengo.
but I have enough to eat. So whatever I earn from the farm, I invest back into the farm.
Además, la sombra es de aguacate.
Also, the shade trees are avocado trees. Now the avocados are ripe.
Eso es comida.
This is food,
Solo para mí, sino
not just for me, but for many, many others. Normally, we will pick something like 10,000 avocados.
menos cortaríamos unos 10,000 aguacates.
Okay, let's press pause on Maria's story so we can explore Armando's. I'm back in San Salvador, the capital. Armando suggested we meet at a Taco Bell at 10 a.m. It's a 15-minute walk from my hostel. San Salvador, one of the most dangerous cities in the world, and I'm just walking around. It's been 4 minutes, I've seen 3 pistols and 2 shotguns. Contrary to popular belief, for tourists, El Salvador is actually pretty okay. If you're a local and you're young, especially, then the gangs can be a real problem for you. But if you're a tourist and you know where to go, people say it's actually safer than Costa Rica. Here we are, outside Taco Bell. I walk inside, order a coffee, and then I sit down and wait. And wait. And wait. Armando walks in around 10:15.
No, it's too much?
Yeah, way too much.
Huh?
Way too much.
Will that affect? Yes?
Yeah, well, we should go somewhere else.
Okay, maybe.
Armando leads me to Taco Bell's offices. All right, we're going around the corner. It's a little office. Interesting. My shotgun microphone is ready, and we dive into it.
Just to introduce myself, I am a fourth generation coffee producer, farmer, coffee exporter. My family has been in doing this business of growing coffee and exporting for more than 130 years.
How much did your family have in 1979?
Oh yeah, we were, to give you an idea, my family was exporting around between 15,000 and 20,000 bags per year. That's a lot of coffee. I used to employ around 500 people monthly.
Now, Armando's life was turned upside down in the 1980s when El Salvador descended into a civil war.
The hardest hit area of the war was my area. We lost everything in one day.
Did you get back the farms that you had before?
No. I only was able to keep one farm.
Armando escaped the violence by doing his undergrad in America.
In Dallas, Texas, a school called SMU. Yeah, I got my degree there in economics and finance, and that was during the war.
When Armando returns to El Salvador, he decides to run the family's remaining 150-hectare farm, the one the guerrillas didn't take. And he gets involved in the coffee milling business, basically husking coffee out of its parchment shell so you can export it.
I was in charge of El Salvador and Guatemala, 2,000 people, and 6 mills, and exporting coffee.
He also gets involved in the franchise business across Central America.
I used to own Blockbuster, I used to own Subway, I used to own Domino's Pizza.
Armando has always enjoyed coffee and business.
I mean, basically at the end, I'm a businessman. I mean, there's nothing more grateful in the world that, do what you want to do and make money out of it.
But in the early 2000s, Armando is in trouble. He's growing and milling commodity coffee, but the coffee market has crashed to unbearably low prices. But he is in luck, because specialty coffee is just taking off. And Armando sees he will get better and better prices if he can offer coffees that are
extremely good quality. And I wouldn't say just quality. It's extremely good quality. Coffees that are really rare, coffees that are really hard to get, coffees that not too many people have.
But to get there, Armando needs to invest a lot of money.
I broke my piggy bank. So really I had to take a decision. Either if I want to be a coffee farmer or a coffee exporter, I have to put all the meat in the grill. And basically I sold some properties, urban properties, in order to raise money. And also with the help of a local bank, I was able to, build what I have built in the past years.
And before long, Armando starts growing coffees that are tasty enough to enter into the Cup of Excellence.
Basically, one of the things that really have helped me, number one, Cup of Excellence. It really launched me. It was my first discovery, like when you discover this movie star and she's working, in a restaurant, and then the Beyonce, she's working there as a waitress, and then suddenly this guy spots him, and then it goes to a show, and then she becomes famous. So Cup of Excellence is really the place to spotlight yourself.
And through the Cup of Excellence, Armando meets influential figures in the specialty coffee world.
Which is it was a World Barista champion.
With these connections and the bigger premiums he's now earning, Armando invests more into his farm to create even more interesting flavors. He experiments with different coffee varieties and different fermentation techniques. But funnily enough, his best coffee at the Cup of Excellence this year was an ordinary coffee processed in an ordinary way.
I competed with a washed bourbon that is like, I tell people, it's like I went to a competition to the Miss Universe with a girl without any paint on her face. I mean, no makeup.
The majority of Armando's coffees are now earning multiples above the commodity price, and he is in an extraordinary position as a coffee producer.
I'm basically pre-sold. I'm sold for the year. People ask for coffee, I cannot offer anymore. I'm sold out.
And despite being sold out and having found his buyers, he still competes at the Cup of Excellence every year.
So 20% of the coffee that was in the competition last year was from my farm. This year, because they didn't like, people winning too much, which I think, is something that I was going to put 12. This year, I only put 2. And of those 2, which is the most allowed per producer this year. This year, the rules were changed.
The Cup of Excellence changed the rules to try and level the playing field a little bit. Why do you continue competing? I mean, you have your buyers, you have your market. I mean, why bother?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I mean, there's people have told me, why are you still competing? And you should give more space to other people. I mean, you already have your wings to fly. Why you need them?
Armando offers variations of the same explanation. At the end of the day, it's what coffee buyers want.
People say, okay, we want to buy coffee from El Salvador. Okay, who are the top guys? Okay, these are the top guys. They're 1, 2, 3, or 4. Why? Because they're the exporters. Why? Because they're the ones who won Cup of Excellence. Why? Because they have a name.
Armando is trying to do what's best for his business, and he's using every tool he can to differentiate himself from the millions of coffee producers that coffee buyers have to pick and choose from. Now, what's interesting is that some of the tools that Armando uses to get ahead, hard work, a Western education, deeper financial pockets, they're not unique to him. He and a few others are part of a historically wealthy, land-owning elite. By the 1970s, they sat at the top of a very unequal society that collapsed into civil war in the 80s. Tens of thousands were killed, and many farms were taken from the elite and given to poorer Salvadorans. In a later episode, we'll explore this and what coffee looks like today in El Salvador. Back to Armando. I want to experience what it's like being a coffee buyer visiting his farm. Are you going to the farm?
Yeah, right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And my timing is perfect.
Okay, if you want to spend some time with me, I mean, we're leaving to the farm at 1 p.m.
This is the beast. What is this? A new Ford Ranger. Mm-hmm. We're cruising down the highways.
Anything to drink?
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna get a beer. I don't know if you care for one or...
I'll have a beer.
We stop at a gas station for beer.
Okay, cheers.
Salud.
Salud.
Armando plays his favorite music. We'll visit Armando's farm in part 2. For now, let's head back to La Palma and catch up with Maria in the restaurant.
Para ponerle puerta. Él trabaja un montón.
So my one worker does a huge amount of work.
Y es el menos pagado.
And he's the worst paid.
Yo por eso estoy buscando dónde pueden pagar un poquito más, porque así puedo.
So I am looking for a place where they could pay more for my coffee, so I can pay a little bit more to the people who help me on the farm.
We've seen how Armando figured out how to create a financially sustainable coffee business in an era of low prices. Let's explore Maria's reality trying to do the same for her little coffee farm. After Maria becomes a widow, the commodity price for coffee gets lower and lower.
Me, after my husband died, I was selling my coffee in the cooperative. And the price was okay, It covered the farm's expenses.
Fast forwarding 3 years, she's struggling to even cover her costs.
3 years ago, I brought my coffee to them to sell. They wanted to pay for my Pacamara coffee, the same one in the Cup of Excellence. They said they would give me a prize. Then after a few days, they told me, look, your coffee is not good. We are going to pay less for it. So I told them, no, I will take it back.
So Maria sets out on a mission to prove that her coffee is good coffee and it deserves a good price. Now, from my perspective, the solution seems simple. She just has to reach out to a coffee roaster in a rich country, just tell them her story, and then they could buy from her directly and give her much better prices. I asked Maria whether she'd like that kind of relationship.
Eso sería excelente.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
And the place to find them is at a trade show. I asked Maria, could you not travel to a trade show in America?
Sí, sí.
I ask, why weren't you at the last one?
Lo que pasa es que,
So the
pues,
thing
yo no
is,
sé
I don't know
cuándo
when
es,
it is.
no
No
hay
one
quien
invites me.
no sé
I
qué
don't know
hacer,
what to do.
Cuándo, dónde, cómo, todo eso.
When, where, how, all that.
Tendría que tener una invitación.
I should have an invitation.
For the record, Maria doesn't need an invitation. So maybe Maria could get the attention of a roaster with a website. I ask her whether she has one.
No,
I ask whether she has internet.
no, pero tiene mi hijo, es lo mismo.
No, but my son has it. It's the same.
Maria's son does help, but he lives 2.5 hours away and has a full-time job.
Pues, nos vamos entonces.
The restaurant is closing. They're kicking us out. I settle the bill.
Gracias.
And we head down the road to Maria's house.
Qué lindo.
Now, while Maria would struggle to reach a wealthy roaster, she did everything she was able to from her little town.
Qué lindo.
So, Maria needs much more than the cooperative is paying. $1 a pound, today's commodity price, totally financially unsustainable. She needs something closer to $2 a pound just to cover costs. But she needs even more than that to thrive in the world of specialty coffee. She found a specialty coffee middleman for some of her coffees. They most recently paid $1.50. She also entered a regional competition, came in the top 10, and got paid $2.75. But it was a one-off and a small amount of coffee.
Dicen algo. Permítanme.
Maria jumps out of her chair and pulls out the top drawer from a heavy wooden chest of drawers. She rummages through some papers. Maria had heard that the government could provide detailed flavor information for her coffees. If her coffee was good enough, she could enter them into the Cup of Excellence. It was a long shot and not a cheap process.
Que de 100 granos, 87.1 están sobre Saranda 17.
And the results were exceptional. Maria's coffee was good. So good, in fact, if she submitted it to the Cup of Excellence, it might be one of the best in the country. And the rest is history. Her coffee this year was a national winner.
¿Tienes otras palabras, otras cosas que...
Our interview is winding up, and I ask her whether there's anything else she'd like to say.
Bueno, si hay
If I
algo
can
de
speak
que puedo hablar
freely,
libremente, es que soy una hija de Dios, que soy de barro, que me encanta la tierra. Estoy
I am a
intentando
daughter of
que la
God.
salud
I am made of mud. I love the earth. And to offer your best self is good.
Y dar lo mejor de uno mismo es bueno.
¿Cuántos imágenes de Dios tienes en esta cama?
On the white walls of this room, I count a dozen holy eyeballs staring down at us.
4,
Ay, hay más.
5, 6, 7. Okay.
Maria takes me on a little tour of the house, and we stop in her study.
Pintura.
Cuando no puedo salir a trabajar en el campo, entonces pinto.
When I can't work on the farm, then I paint.
Maria picks up a chest-sized canvas bursting with bright colors.
So we have a beautiful, colorful scene of mountains and people, chickens, villages and coffee farms and all sorts of fruit trees.
This is a similar style of art that covers the walls of her town. The paintings she's sold over the years helped her buy this house.
La vida es linda, es colorida, es bellísima y entonces se da a conocer también con los colores.
Life is pretty, it's colorful, it's beautiful. And that should be expressed in color.
I finally leave Maria's house.
Okay, gracias para todos.
Bueno, buenas noches.
As I walk back to my hotel, I reflect back on Maria's journey. The barriers to entry for her have been much higher than they were for Armando. We need to visit their farms to truly appreciate how big a head start Armando had over Maria, getting into this little specialty coffee club that offers financially sustainable prices. In the next episode, we're going to pretend we're coffee buyers, and we're on a mission to buy Salvadoran specialty coffee. Whose farm would you choose? Thank you for listening. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, I've just launched an Indiegogo crowdfund. This is a chance for us to taste Maria's award-winning coffee at this year's Cup of Excellence. It's got flavor notes of white wine and pineapple. I want to use whatever platform we have here to promote Maria's coffee in this very competitive world of specialty coffee. And the publicity might help her find a long-term buyer who can pay financially sustainable prices. So this is how it works. Go to Indiegogo.com and type in filter stories, or follow the link in the episode description. Choose how much coffee you want to buy. 1 bag up to 4 bags. Once we've raised €1,000, I will buy a 69 kilo bag of Maria's coffee and transport it to Oslo. There, it will be roasted by my friend Taylor Brown. We'll put it into beautiful coffee packages, and you'll get your coffees in time for Christmas. If there's any money left over, it'll help cover the costs of making filter stories in the future. The Indiegogo campaign starts now and will end on the 10th of September. Thank you for your support. The sounds you heard in this episode were professionally mixed by Dom Edgley, a Berlin-based sound engineer. You can find more of his work at domedgleysound.com. And the Filter Stories logo was designed by Headquarters, a branding and packaging design team. You can find more of their work at headquarters.studio. Okay, until next time.